The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good afternoon. We're on Mannin Line today. Open line till 1. Call 66 13 68. Text 166 177. WhatsApp, same number, 166 177. Email studio@maxradio.com. Lots of comment yesterday came in about the fact that, well, the UK is looking to ban smoking in public places. Will that happen over here? Any follow-up on that? Lots of messages, which I'll get to hopefully before the end of the show today. Breathing will be the next thing that the government's going to ban. Also, all the clowns who sit outside pubs or pub gardens and say smoking is bad. What about vehicles driving past all day long? Non-smoking Jeff says ban the car. Well, you never know. We may have electric vehicles. All of us have electric vehicles, and then won't have to breathe in that carbon monoxide. I'm not offended. I'm just entitled to my opinion, says Sue, even though everybody thinks that they're right. Says Sue. I have a good vocabulary, so I don't need to rely on the media for words like zealots, says Sue. Well, Sue, that's the point of Mannin Line. Everybody's got an opinion. I'm never, ever going to knock anybody for having an opinion, because this is one of the forums for opinions on the Isle of Man. 5 hours a week live on the radio. Spanish people seem increasingly to want to stop tourism. If only we had cheap transport links and a good hospitality sector, says G. Presumably, G, you're in the hospitality sector, setting a good example. I don't know whether you've seen this, but it's happening in Venice, Barcelona particularly, and lots of other places on some Greek islands. They're kind of stopping tourists. People are walking across zebra crossings to stop people getting to the beach in cars. Bizarre. A lot of this, I have to say, is to do with Airbnb, which has opened up a lot of property that hitherto wasn't available to tourists, but Airbnb has revolutionised it, and certainly around Britain they're having real problems in certain hotspots with Airbnb, certainly in the Lake District, in the northeast of England, and in the southwest. Obviously we have Airbnb on the Isle of Man. Don't know whether it's causing that much of a problem. It's making people money, certainly, because Airbnb does good business on the Isle of Man. Lots of comment also about, I mentioned yesterday, about smart meter installation. Will said, Max Utilers are forcing me into having a smart meter in my house. Well, apparently, I mean, as far as I recollect, Will, you're not forced to have a smart meter in your house, but if you don't have one, you have to pay for them to come and visit your meter. So if the left hand doesn't get you, the right hand will. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure you have to have. It's compulsory to have a smart meter. But if you don't, you have to pay for them to come and inspect the meter. David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just want to talk about all the properties that's in there, because the politicians are having custodial views on that. Yep. The prisons, Park Road School, Summerland site, and then all the other ones they've got, the bus station, whether we're going to have a bus station or whatever. And it thought to me about Glenside again. And I just don't know whether we've had an update regarding Glenside, when people are going to occupy a brand new place which is begging to have customers in. Well,
they said the people, who is it, LV, or the people who've got the contract to run it, what they said was they're not going to rush it, and it won't be, I mean, if they do it this side of Christmas, it won't be many people.
Well, isn't that strange? But who's running? What does it say? We don't know what the contract says, but you would have thought that the contract would say that the government have an overall responsibility for it, and the contract says you must put so many people in it, you must run it, you must get staff, because there's rumours going around about the staff not getting transferred from the other place, down at near the museum there.
Oh, Albert Terrace.
Yeah. So what actually is going on? And surely not only we haven't heard from the minister for a little while, have we, regarding Hooper, regarding anything to do with health-wise. I mean, we're still struggling for dentists. I'm on the dentist list now, looking for a dentist, like others. But they'll be coming out of recess shortly. But what's the main issues for us as the population?
Well, they've not said. I mean, presumably, if what you're saying has some substance, in that not everybody is going to get transferred from Albert Terrace to Summerhill Views, then presumably the company involved are doing their own recruitment. And we always keep getting told that the care sector is struggling for people.
Correct. Now, the other issue is, remember that word we used to have years ago called succession planning, where you have, your workforce, and your workforce's age profile. So what's happening with government at the minute? Do we know who's taking charge? Do we know who the political members are? Do we actually know whether some of the political members are still getting involved in government departments and leading things forward? They should be making policy.
I just, I mean, as you say, there are lots of things that are glaringly obvious, and one, of course, is housing. When the government sits on the bank of land that it has, and they doesn't seem to be anything big in the way of housing coming. Obviously, the development in Peel has been put off for the moment.
Yeah, and I can understand if the planning committee want to have a visit. It's a shame they didn't have a visit before they actually sat down. I'm sure the planning committee would have been talking to themselves and saying, look, we wouldn't mind a look in Peel to see what's going on there. I looked at the plan myself, and it's what worried me a little bit was maybe it was near the football pitch or down in Peel or whatever, but it wasn't. It looked quite sensible, and Peel is now vibrant, if I could say that. The thing they need to do, and not interfering with Peel, they can get on with themselves on there. They need to get the sewage thing sorted out, and government need to say to them, we're compulsory purchasing the land, get on with it and get it done. Same in Laxey.
Okay, all right. Thanks, David. Good to hear from you. It's 13 minutes past 12. Well, this is a story about Peel. Dandara's housing development went before the committee. The decision on plans to build 92 new homes in Peel has been deferred to allow the planning committee to visit the site. Dandara's proposal would see the estate built on land adjacent to Peel Golf Course. It marks phase 2 of Dandara's plans for the west of the Isle of Man, including a mix of 2, 3, 4 and 5 bed properties. 23 of the 92 homes will be classed as affordable. At a meeting of the planning committee on the 2nd of September, members heard from 2 people who said there's not enough infrastructure in the town to accommodate the increase in population. Stephanie Cottier told the committee the town's already full. They're already struggling to get GP appointments, parking's congested and schools are full. David Humphrey argued the area has been zoned for residential use for 30 years and the availability of schools and healthcare facilities is the government's responsibility, i.e., once the housing's there, the government has to address it. Mr Humphrey said the provision of affordable housing was in line with the government's targets to boost the island's population, and the developers had worked hard to meet the requirements set out by various government departments, such as infrastructure and environment, food and agriculture. Any affordable houses will be built in the early phases of the development, and the diagrams were shown of how the homes will be fitted with solar panels. Any thoughts on this, and particularly if you live in Peel? What do you think about this? I mean, obviously it's scheduled to happen, and at some point it is going to happen, whether or not 92 will get built, or where and how they get built. But Peel is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as far as the infrastructure is concerned, certainly with GPs, and certainly, I don't know about you, how you're finding getting an NHS dentist nowadays, but it seems it's the devil's own job trying to do that. Also going to mention yesterday from Paul, who just said you were talking about eels around Conister Rock. Well, certainly the pier extension, the battery pier. Apparently there are lots of eels around. This is completely new to me. I don't know about you. I'm not a fisherman. But are eels easily caught on the Isle of Man? And if so, presumably you don't lob them back. Is somebody cooking and eating eels? I'd absolutely love to know. This is something I thought I knew most things about the Isle of Man, but eels, absolutely new to me. 1,000cc bike engine burning a litre of fuel will cause more health issues than a person smoking 20 cigarettes per day for 20 years, says Pat. I don't know where you get the information from, but let's just say it's illustrative. Should all motorsports like the TT, open to the public, be banned because of this? Well, have to say that the government hasn't said they've got no plans to impose the outdoor smoking ban on the Isle of Man. So who knows? We could become a smoking destination, a smoking tourist destination. You never know. I'm not saying that will be good or bad, but if it's going to be banned in Britain, imagine what the fans of the TT would make for that. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Well, I suppose you could use the American expression for something good by saying Isle of Man, a smoking destination, I suppose.
Very good.
Well, maybe. We've had various people on the Mannin Line telling us that green energy is cheaper than traditional gas and oil, haven't we? I think quite a few people saying this. I think John Curtis said it the last time that we spoke to him, David Quirk. Just an interesting point I'd like to make. The current price to use Pulrose Power Station as a gas turbine to make electricity is hovering around, and has done for quite a long time now, about £60 for every megawatt hour that's generated. So if you remember 60, there's an interesting FOI that was answered 2 days ago. And the question that was asked was, how much is the electricity when you import it from the electricity connector at Bispen to the Isle of Man?
Yeah.
And this FOI says the answer given is £177. Just it's a couple of pence under £177 per megawatt hour.
And that's on the FOI website, is it?
Yes. The FOI goes on to say green electricity from the interconnector is at a higher cost. Renewable energy certificates of origin are purchased to verify it is green. So what that means is the cost of importing electricity from the UK down the interconnector is 3 times more expensive than what we're paying to get it out from gas at Pulrose.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think I've sort of made my position clear. I'm bothered about what it means to people, because we seem to be caught in between people who are proposing green energy, sustainable energy, net zero energy, whatever you want to call it, but energy that's not coming from fossil fuels. We seem to be caught between that and politicians. And most people just want to get on with their lives. Most people I don't care where the electricity comes from. It'd be nice if it's cheap, but I just wonder what this means for us now, Julian.
Well, the plan that we're told by Net Zero Isle of Man is that we will have wind turbines, and then we will have the £350 million interconnector put in, and then we'll draw power from the UK, who is currently spending, was it 60 billion on the transmission network, which is the big pylons. And they've also recently said that the distribution grid, which is digging up everyone's driveways and the roads and the pavements to put all of that in, is going to be 500 billion. So you've got 60 billion for the UK to just do the big pylon bit down from Scotland, and then you've got 500 billion, so half a trillion, in the distribution of it to houses and stuff. So
how much do you say it is for this is the new interconnector where from Preston to Groudle? Is this the one Ørsted are talking about?
Well, it's touted to be 300. This is the one that's separate from Ørsted, because I think Ørsted will be pumping most of if they get more vanning in, will go to the England, but they might do a separate little T-piece off to us.
Yeah.
However, the separate interconnector, which is in all the plans that the Isle of Man Green idea is that we will pay 350 million for, I think it's a 100 megawatt interconnector. But the point is, I mean, you might argue that, oh, well, it might be cheaper to make our power here with wind, but the reality will be it's not going to be 36 million. I think everybody agrees with that. It's going to be a lot more than that. But the other point is, the reality will be it will only run for a quarter of the time. So if the plan is to have the interconnector bringing the rest of our power because we're going to shut down Paul Rose Power Station, well, that electricity, according to this FOI, is going to be 3 times as expensive as what we're paying now. So that's not an inconvenience. 3 times.
I wonder, well, it'd be interesting to see whether we can confirm that and just see what the implications are. Because if we're going to pay, I mean, at the moment, what are we, 29p per kilowatt hour domestic rate?
Yeah, so look at 90 pence, it looks like. I'll give you the FOI number just so that people can have a little look at it.
By all means, what number is it?
396 3453.
Okay, 396 3453.
Yeah. Okay. And, it looks interesting. How is that explainable?
Okay, right. Well, we have to navigate our way through all this because, we get basically pushed from pillar to post as the public. We get told one thing by one side and one thing by another, told we have to think X, Y, and Z, when really all everybody wants to do is just get on with their lives and turn the kettle on and turn the microwave on and turn the heating on. So how on earth we'll cope with that? And certainly I know I've heard lots of protests in the UK are planned for those enormous pylons that are going here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not forgetting that the UK has spent 270 billion on over, I think it's 11,700 wind turbines. It didn't do anything to stop the price of electricity going up. They are also saying that they're going to shove their electricity prices up. And 270 billion would be enough to buy 10 times the amount of power stations to be renewed to keep the, like traditional power stations. So it's 10 times as expensive. It hasn't stopped the prices from going upwards. And we're going to be hooked up to a country that I think Keir Starmer has completely stopped all the new gas licenses. So they're going full tilt with wind and solar. Well, if that is, you see what I mean? I mean, people will say, well, we get connected to the UK, but I mean, what does that mean? If they're going to go full green, what are we connecting to?
Okay. All right, Julian, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. Lots of conger eels in every hole of the breakwater extension, says Paul. Apparently, this. I'd love to see some photos. If you're a fisher and you've landed an eel, I'd absolutely love to see this. Janice dropped me a note in on the news on the iPad earlier this morning. The first window said the government are looking into centralising waste collections and doing away with the daily bin collection from households. I looked into it later, but the item had disappeared. Has anybody heard anything more about this? Daily bin collections, wow. Considering smoking and vaping are very much in the news, being a relative newcomer to the Isle of Man, I'm surprised to see that the main island's brewery seems to be encouraging vaping within pubs. I've noted pubs in the south that were non-vaping are now encouraging vaping in establishments, says a clean air lover. It's such a bad move considering the medical profession is very concerned that passive vaping is starting to cause noticeable lung damage. Is that true? Is there a law or is it just a rule regarding vaping inside? Dan dropped a note in on 555. Eels are critically endangered and are now protected. I didn't know that, Dan. Peel's been swamped, says Alan, been swamped with far more houses than planned. Dandara's made millions out of the Isle of Man. They should be made to build the new sewerage plant there. Only fair that they put something back into the economy, says Alan. Thanks for that point of view. And a note in also just to say, maybe Dandara would build an extension to the 2 schools in Peel after the billions they've made out of the Isle of Man, says Des. Well, no doubting that Dandara's made a lot of money out of the Isle of Man, but they have built a lot of houses, and a lot of people live in those houses. The Isle of Man will follow any UK smoking ban. They'll fall in line and do as they're told, says 10. That's us you're talking about, 109. Here's Wilf now. Hi, Wilf.
I haven't been on for a while, but it's no good me coming on unless I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Now, I know a little bit about conger eels. Now then, there was a few days ago. You said about the island with the castle on in the middle there.
Oh, the Conister Rock, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's been there forever. Not the castle, but the actual rock. That's been there forever. So that would harbour eels all the time, any time. They would live there. Fair enough. Now, when they built what they call it, the breakwater.
Yeah.
With the stabbits.
Yeah.
That was creating a home for eels, lobsters, all sorts of fish.
Right.
It'll be actually full of fish. Now then, that is probably why we're seeing more and more eels. They're breeding there and spreading out. Now, the old fellas used to say there was 2 sorts of eels. You said about eating them.
Yeah.
Well, nobody eats them much over here. But they used to one time, especially in the north. They reckoned there was 2 different sorts. There was the black eel, which is the ones you're seeing in Douglas, which would be living in the breakwater. And the other one was the white eel, same sort of eel, but obviously they tasted different, which lived on the sandbanks out north. And they used to go out at night with lines and catch them and eat them because obviously the taste must be different or whatever. But anyway, that's just that. The other thing was, you said you were going to come and visit me sometime, but we never got round to it. I think that's because I said you'll have to bring your own milk for your tea. But anyway, we never got round to that. But I could do with seeing you. It was either up there or down at my place, and I've lost your number anyway, because I've got a lot of stuff that I would like to get out to the public before I snuff it of old age, see? So I'd rather tell you or tell somebody what I know.
I'll be up next week, Wilf.
Okay.
I'll give you a call after the show, and then we'll you can get the kettle on.
That's it. Well, I can do that, and if I know when you're coming, I'll buy some milk.
So where at the moment can you catch eels in Ramsey?
You catch eels anywhere in Ramsey. I've seen them in the harbour even. But then they used to come up to catch the fish and the bait and things that was left in the harbour. But any rocky area, you catch eels. Down the north, plenty of rocks down the north, and plenty of rocks towards the south. And round the piers.
How big are they? How big are the eels now?
Well, I personally caught one 6 foot long, but that was a long, long time ago when the Queen's Pier was full of eels down below. And we used to catch one now and again just for fun. But there was any amount of eels down there. But I don't. There's no real point in fishing for them. Actually, I don't think so. Unless you want, because what they do, they hook on, and then they'll twist themselves around. They'll back into a hole, and all you do is lose your gear. Or what they do, when we're getting them on the pier, as you're lifting, they go into a spin, and they spin and spin and spin till they twist your gear off. So we never used to catch them. We used to go out to catch bits of cods and whiting and mackerel and stuff like that. Right. We never bothered with the congers.
You catch
Just
any?
one now and again for
do you
fun.
get any taupe off Ramsey?
Yeah, any amount of them.
Really?
Yes, I can catch taupe anytime. I was pulling a couple of weeks ago now. I was out and I went out because nobody said they couldn't find any mackerel. Well, of course, I know where they live, so I went out, and of course, half filled the basket full in no time. And as you're pulling them up, 3 and 4 at a time, there's these taupe half as long as a motor car coming up behind them, trying to pinch them off your hooks, you know. They don't get them in quick enough, you lose them.
All right. Okay. All right, I'll see you next week, Will. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Cheers. Now, it's 29 minutes before 1. Where's my free energy gone, says Des. I want my free energy. Well, who knows? We don't know what the deal is. We don't know what our deal is, the government's deal with Ørsted is, if we're going to put these huge wind turbines up the east coast. What is there a quid pro quo where we're concerned? Will we be making out any money out of this? Daphne dropped a note in just to say, thanks, Julian, for the information. I'd follow his advice to get more information. And the number of that Freedom of Information request regarding the cost of electricity down the interconnector is 396-345-3. 396-345-3 for that particular information. We used to fish for eels by the bridge that takes you to the breakwater in Peel, says Fred. I'm interested to know this, and if Wilf caught one 6 feet long, 2 metres long, where are eels being caught at the moment? And is any restaurant serving Manx eels, or are they inedible? Don't they? What do they taste of? There used to be a sea of eels at Balafcurrock's Waterworld, the bird sanctuary, which has been drained, says Manxwell. I didn't know that. So, eels on the Isle of Man. I'd love to see some photos.
Foot or leg problems? Then contact Pop Podiatry, where all services are carried out by an HCPC registered and qualified podiatrist using the latest clinically backed treatments and devices, including the new Swiss Shockwave high-powered laser treatment for tendinopathies, plus nail surgery, verruca treatment, and more. Conveniently based at the Nunnery in Douglas, see what Pop Podiatry can do to help you. For your free assessment, book online today. Get back on your feet soon with poppodiatry.com.
The Loganair September sale is now on. Fly from the Isle of Man and save up to 15% off over 1 million seats across the Loganair network. Book by 6 p.m. on 8th September. Travel from 1st October. Subject to availability, exclusions apply. Visit loganair.co.uk. Use promo code SEPT15. Loganair, your journey, our joy.
Step into Office World, the island's largest fully stocked stationery store, where there's over 5,000 items on display to take away. From pens, paper, inks and toners to general stationery, adhesives and batteries. You can get what you need right now from Office World, with all the big brands, including Pilot, Pentel, Sellotape, Duracell, Gorilla, Pucker Pads and more. Office World is conveniently located on Spring Valley Industrial Estate, with easy parking right outside the door.
Office World! The Musicals in Concert returns to the Royal Hall Villa Marina, Sunday 13th of October, presented by Stage Ed, featuring classic songs from the world's greatest musicals in a gala performance by stars from the London stage. The Musicals in Concert, Sunday 13th October at the Villa Marina. Book now at villagaiety.com or on 600 555 with Zedra Isle of Man and supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this weekend, we've teamed up with Millie Chabs to give you a chance to win a £200 voucher to spend in store. All you have to do is listen out for our winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. And once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. Millie Chabs offer everything for your home with over 40 top brands. They've also expanded their steelless and temper collections. Perfect for upgrading your space before winter. Make this your winning weekend with Millie Chabs and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
535, drop me a note. Vaccination charges. Why should people expect to be given travel vaccinations FOC? The Isle of Man government's right in not giving them for free. Why should we subsidise people's holidays? If people choose to go on holiday, they're responsible for all the costs. If they can't afford the vaccinations, don't go. Holidays aren't a God-given right. They're nice, but not a necessity. Living within your means nowadays seems to be a thing of the past, says 535. Manxcare is facing calls to reconsider its travel vaccination policy and make more vaccinations free of charge. It's after concern some travellers to high-risk countries might forego jabs to save money, but at the risk of increasing their vulnerability to serious illness. Vaccines for typhoid, hepatitis A, hepatitis B and diphtheria among those not covered and offered by Manxcare. Instead, you're asked to directly get them privately. There was a lobbyist called Fiona Brown who contacted MCALS to request a review, and she reckons progress has been limited. DHSC said since 2010 the policy on the Isle of Man has been that all travel vaccines are available on private prescription only. The decision was made to ensure the financial sustainability of services. Not enough money. The contract with GPs reflects this, and practices are responsible for determining their own fees. Travel advice continues to be provided on the NHS as to what vaccinations are required, and that service is free of charge. So the information's free, you have to pay for the jabs. Andy's on now. Hello, Andy.
Hiya. I just had some comments about the developments in Peel for you. So you've got on your coverage that Kate Law-Brennan's objected to the development of Ballysesson, which she has, on the basis that she doesn't believe there should be greenfield development without infrastructure or et cetera, et cetera. I just thought that the coverage hasn't been clear that Kate Law-Brennan's department, the Cabinet Office, is currently pushing the area plan for the north and west. And in the area plan, they're attempting to zone greenfield land around Peel in Germany, but mainly around Peel. That's 45 hectares of land, greenfield, or 108 acres for housing. And that equates, in their figures, to an estimate of 603 greenfield developable housing units, which, if you take the current number of people per household from the census, is around an additional 1,315 people, greenfield development in Peel. And that, if it goes through, would be immediately zoned as soon as Tynwald adopted the plan, meaning that all that land could be built as soon as anyone wanted to. And I just feel that she's not being challenged on this hard enough, that I believe she's effectively trying to make a political point because this development is potentially unpopular with the whole sewerage issue right now, and she's just playing a political game to look like she's doing the thing the public want, whereas actually doing something else.
So what she said is, what are some constraints and conditions now both on large residential development proposals, stroke zoning and new planning applications for significant residential development in Peel, especially where they're proposed or applied for on greenfield sites on the outskirts of the town. So she's saying that she doesn't want development on greenfield sites on the outskirts of the town, but Cabinet Office may well.
But she is Cabinet Office. She's the minister. She is the department.
Yeah.
So I believe that maybe she should be asked for a comment or be challenged.
So what's your opinion of what she said?
Well, it's as I said, if you've been at the area plan inquiry, it's Cabinet Office are fighting tooth and nail to kind of shoehorn in as much development land as possible in the area plan, which doesn't necessarily conform with our current planning policy, because the 100,000 people say not in planning policy in the Isle of Man. It's currently, it's political target. But it's not in planning policy. They need to revise the planning policy. So they're trying to kind of push it in underhand right now through the strategic plan, through the area plan. And they're fighting tooth and nail on this and refusing, for example, to look at the latest population projections. If you ignore the political target, for example, and you look at the actual trajectories of migration, the historical long-term trends, that kind of thing, the amount of land they're trying to zone in Ramsey and Peel, north and west, in this plan for immediate kind of relief is more than the need would be all the way to beyond 2050 based on just the way the population has been. So it's very much a build it and they will come strategy they're trying to implement right now, which doesn't really conform with any kind of evidence or what's actually been happening on the islands or what the population of the islands' needs are. It's all pivoted around Alf Cannon's 100,000 plan. And that's where all these decisions are coming from.
And you feel that Kate Law-Brennan's position is conflicted. In fact, she has two positions.
Yes, I mean, maybe she'd argue that it's because the sewerage plant isn't operational, but that's the clarification I'd like, because it reads as though she's not supportive in general of large-scale expansion around Peel, but then that's what her department appears to be progressing.
Okay, we appreciate that, and we'll try and get some sort of clarification on that. I appreciate your point.
Sorry, I just have one tiny last part to add on. Which
okay,
is,
by all means.
I spent a long time trying to read through the area plan stuff in quite a lot of detail, and it was very late on that I realised there's a ring road in there as well, for example, go around Peel. I don't think anyone's even aware of that kind of thing.
Whereabouts is that?
So it's in the area plan for the north and west. Because they're proposing to build zone land from kind of Ballagher, on the coast road, all the way around Peel, out to like cemetery kind of area on the near Kiwi 2, and then planning to build a road that goes basically all around the outskirts of Peel to connect the coast road over to the St John's Road there kind of thing. So that's all in there, but it's very hard to decipher.
Whereabouts would that be on the St John's Road?
I think it would come out opposite the cemetery.
My word! And that's all in the plan to see.
It's proposed, yeah.
Okay, right. We appreciate that. Thanks for calling today.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good to hear from you. By all means, if you've got an opinion regarding this development in Peel, it has to say German parish commissioners opposed the application, saying it didn't have the necessary infrastructure to support the development and Peel's infrastructure is failing. Peel town commissioners opposed the application, said it doesn't have the necessary infrastructure to support the development of the land at this time. Well, members of the planning committee will be going to have a look, and Mary's on now. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Andy. I'm surprised that Julian or June haven't brought this up, but in the weekend papers, I think it was either the Sunday Times or the Saturday Telegraph, it's the amount of constraint payments paid out from the national grid to incentivise wind farms to reduce their output, especially when more energy is generated than can be used locally or exported.
Now, a constraint payment is where people get paid not to provide electricity, is that right?
Exactly. And the Renewable Energy Foundation released figures showing that 62% of the New Shetland's mega wind farm had to be discarded in its first month. And constraint payments have increased rapidly as more power comes from renewable sources. So last year alone, 310 million was paid out to stop producing energy.
You see, Mary, this is where I contend that the public glaze over, because these are all just telephone numbers that really don't mean much to us. Obviously, if you're in the business of all this and you're au fait with the ins and outs of it, you'll know what all this means. But we don't understand. I certainly don't understand this on a day-to-day basis, and most people have got more going on in their lives. But this seems to be storing something up for us.
That's ridiculous. I mean, the paradoxical outcome is that wind farm developers actually make more money when they're paid to reduce their output rather than selling the energy. Is this what Ørsted is hoping to happen?
Well,
they're going to build these ugly monsters and then get paid for not producing any energy.
Well, Mary,
and we're certainly not going to benefit.
Ørsted are in it for the money, let's be honest. They're not in it for the good of their health. They're in it to make a fortune. And a lot of the energy providers know full well that the political wind means that fossil fuels are on the way out. And so they've got to stay in business, and they'll stay in business. Water will find its level, and so will business. So I think the sooner everybody realises that, everybody's in it for the money,
Well, exactly. Anyway, I just thought it was very interesting that
appreciate
so much money is paid
All
out
right.
for...
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that, Mary. Thanks for calling Mannin Line today on Manx Radio. Any thoughts? Text, email, call, WhatsApp.
Waltons have hundreds of TVs in stock ready to go, from Samsung to LG, here on the island. Plus, a large range of main appliances in stock, including fridge freezers, washing machines, and everything your home will need from all the top brands like Smeg, Samsung, and Hotpoint. With special offers throughout the store and delivery and installation available, check out Waltons on Facebook or waltons.im. Or, even better, visit Waltons in Isle of Man Business Park, opposite Robinson's, for great prices and great service.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
As our loved ones age, they carry not only the memories of the past, but also the uncertainties of the future. Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on enduring powers of attorney and more.
We make oil heating easy with our range of services. Whether it's our free smart tank monitoring systems or just our efficient all-island deliveries, Ellen Vannin Fuels has it covered. Call us on 844 000 to find out more.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time we've teamed up with Miller Chaps to give you the chance to win a £200 voucher to spend in store. All you have to do is listen out for our winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend, and once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. Miller Chaps offer everything for your home with over 40 top brands. They've also expanded their stressless and temper collections, perfect for upgrading your space before winter. You'll find them in Parliament Street in Ramsey. Make this your winning weekend with Miller Chaps and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Tony B is with us. Hi, Tony.
How are you doing, Andy?
Very well, thanks.
Right, I've got I wouldn't call it a prediction. I'd say I can think that Ørsted, as you said, are in this for the money. So, and our government is incompetent. So my guess is what's going to happen is we're going to end up with an interconnector done by Ørsted, and we will buy electricity through Ørsted, and it'll be green as you can get, which will mean it'll basically be half green. But the main thing is that will be under Ørsted's control, and we won't have any control over that interconnector ourselves. And the end result of that will be we won't get any money for the rental. We'll get a peanuts, peppercorn rent is what they'll give us. And I suspect that is why you will not be getting 100 million a year. And that would be a disaster, because what it means is that if the Manx government go down that route, which I suspect is what they'll end up doing, because the people who are negotiating this, we don't really know who is the negotiating team from our side. They have not got a good history with anything. So my suggestion would be charge them 100 million, build our own interconnector if we really want one. But first of all, find out whether green energy is what we really, really want as a nation. Or is it just something we're towing the line, as it were, and trying to make the favourite thought from people who are making money out of it. We're just supporting that, and we're going to end up spending a fortune on electricity. I just wonder, why can't they make all this public?
And bearing in mind the hash that was made of negotiating the deal with the Liverpool landing stage, surely the government will go out, and even if you have to pay hefty money, get the best negotiating team possible to hammer Ørsted to the floor so that we get the best deal. Ørsted are in it for the money. Why shouldn't we be in it for the money?
Correct. But do you think that will happen? I mean, I would hope it does. but based on history and based on the choices they've made so far, I haven't seen that appearing anywhere.
But surely the government wouldn't send, as happened over the Liverpool landing stage, they wouldn't send inexperienced in to deal with Ørsted. You know, a worldwide company, very adept, know their playbook very well, know what they're doing, and know how to make money. Surely we wouldn't send people in half naked to deal with Ørsted.
I think the government doesn't have a long memory, is one thing. And number two, they insist they know what they're doing. The departments are incompetent, basically. You start a DOI and work your way around the building. They want to stop dissension, and that was one of the things that was brought out by, I think Julian mentioned this new bill they want to bring out. And that's so you can't query things and you can't object to things. And that's the way the world is going. The objection globally is they're starting to try and quash it. And, you know, I stand by people having free speech. I think it's the right thing to have. But I don't trust our government to have that same issue or the same approach, because we were told when Alf Cannon turned up and said, I'm the man for the moment, he was very clear, we're going to have open government, we're going to have clear information given to you, and then you have one disaster after another. Starts with the disaster from Liverpool and just carries on. We bought a ferry that's not the right ferry because it's just run into something because it's too tall, so it's like a wind sail. I just have no faith, I'm afraid, and I don't think they care, I think is what it comes down to. They're not worried about it because in a year and a half, 2 years' time, they'll be gone.
Yeah, but this is going to be our life for the next 40-odd years.
Yeah, but do they care about that? Ask yourself, do they?
Well, I hope they would.
They would have negotiated Liverpool Sea Terminal a bit better and bought a different boat. Right. Every time the government's been involved in anything, for the last 10 years maybe, it's been a disaster.
Okay, all right, Tony.
It just goes on and on. I mean, I could list them all, but that's not much point. I suspect we're going to see a caving in to Ørsted on the basis that it's going to support our growth as a country. And I don't think that's the case. I think we're just going to get taken to the cleaners as usual. And the person in charge of the electricity board will be able to say, oh, well, it wasn't my fault.
And in the meantime, we get something like the War of the Worlds on the east coast of the Isle of Man.
Yes, but do they care? No, I don't think... They don't think very far down the road, put it that way.
Okay. All right, Tony. Good to hear from you.
Take care, Andy. All the best.
7 minutes before 1, Manx Radio, Mannin Line today. And regarding vaccination charges, obviously other people are saying if you can't afford to go on holiday, you can't afford the vaccination charge. Same thing. And again, surely, says Charles, if people can afford to go on foreign holidays, they can afford to pay for these vaccinations. They can't expect Manxcare to pay for everything, especially when they have to keep asking government for more money, says Charles. What's happening to the Castle Mona? I see they're slowly doing the place up. Also, has Big John got something to say about this? Castle Mona something's gradually happening, but who knows what's inside? Isn't it the Tavere Group that own that? Of course, they just got planning permission for that stuff on Loch Promenade. Maybe something's going to happen at the Castle Mona. Be a massive job, though, wouldn't it? I mean, that place has been unoccupied now for years. And also, Terry just said, what's happening at Housestrake Holiday Camp? I keep seeing diggers around Housestrake. Is somebody getting interested in Housestrake Holiday Camp at last? A message also in from, I think I've got time to tell you what Kieran had to say. Kieran dropped me a note last week, and I've been holding off just because for the right time, really, to do this justice. Kieran said, we've heard many times both sides argue eloquently and passionately for their side of the debate regarding green things, sustainable living and electricity and what have you. And the average listener may not have a vested interest in the outcome apart from how much it's going to cost them and how it's going to affect their life. They may be baffled by this conflict of total certainty and frankly not sure of who to believe, particularly when those who have a vested interest in both sides of either political power or pecuniary interest, money, aren't made obvious or transparent. The audience may construe this constant adversarial spectacle that's laid before them as childish and non-consequential. All they know is that somebody else is trying to change their domestic life because they're convinced it's good for them. And if they disagree, or if they appear unconvinced, they are to be belittled and hectored and browbeaten and bullied even. And that's Kieran's take on what's happening. Who knows what's going to happen with the Ørsted wind farm? Whether or not we will get those 1,000-foot wind turbines off the east coast of the Isle of Man. How much Ørsted are going to pay us to rent our seabed for the next umpteen years. Whether or not we'll get discount electricity because of it. And how much our electricity is going to cost in the future. You would think if somebody's going to put a compelling case for a big wind farm, they would at least say it's going to save you money. A couple of years ago, we had Laurie Hooper on, and he said, Laurie Hooper, of course, is the chairman of Liberal Vannin, and he said, we should be pitching electricity at 10p per unit. That way you'll get people on your side. Well, any thoughts? Back with an open line tomorrow. Email manninline@manxradio.com or the answer phone 682-631. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today.
WINT.